What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Exchange. This week, covering Star Wars Visions Volume 2. Very excited to get into this. Before we do, got to check in with my almighty co-host, Mike. How you going today?
I'm doing great. Sorry, I have the giggles today. I don't know why, but I'm very happy to be here and very happy to be talking about Star Wars Visions Season 2. Yes. And
Absolutely.
we have a very special guest and a
Yes, we
very
do.
very good friend, Michelle, also known as Ahsoka X Tana. Welcome to the Star Wars Exchange because you were on maybe like once or twice on Star Wars Exchange, but now you're here on the Star Wars Exchange. How are you?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for having me. I also have the giggles earlier. But no, I'm really excited to chat visions with you guys, and yeah, it's gonna be great.
Awesome. Thank you. Ari, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Keen to get into Visions. I think you're the same, but I honestly just finished watching it about an hour ago. But so it's fresh in the mind, at least the last few
But
episodes.
it's there's something wrong. I don't call out the community here, but I just feel like everybody's like, ooh, content, and they eat it up. And there's things
Yeah.
like this where I just like to relish in it, where it's like,
I'm with you.
if it's something like, if Rebels all of season 3 dropped on Disney Plus, of course I'm gonna binge the heck out of it the entire weekend because you want to avoid spoilers. Is that how I would want to watch it? No, like especially Rebel season 2, that like nice grace period that if you were watching while the show was airing after Ezra, learns about the death of his parents. There's like this like month or two break from the show, and then we get back into it where he's still. It just feels like you took a break with him, from the show, and once you dive back in, it's like, oh man, we're back to it. We're meeting up with Leia. He's still processing everything, and then they have this really cool moment together. And I mean, and us as audiences, we go through that together. But Visions, they're standalone stories. I feel like you could really relish in them and separate it. It's like, if you have a nice big dinner, Thanksgiving dinner in front of you, it's like, yeah, you want to eat everything, but it's like eat a little bit everything at once because you're gonna have all evening to do so, and even the next day and
Don't
the day after that
scoff.
for leftovers. So for me, Vision season 2. Did I take a week's time to watch it? Sure, but I enjoyed every second that I spread that baby out. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just dive into it then, talk about our overall thoughts before we jump into each episode. Mike, I guess we'll start with you because you can continue with where you just left off there. But how did you feel going through these 9 shorts? Obviously, as you said, you did relish them. How'd you go with it?
Honestly, I was. It's funny because and Michelle will talk about her in a second because she actually got to watch season 2
Oh yeah.
ahead of us. But she was even telling me like, oh, you should go seeking out these screeners and everything, and we had good conversations about that. But I'm like, you know what, May 4th, there's not gonna be much for me this time around besides me like just posting content for everybody and whatever. I would really like it just to sit back and watch like one or two shorts from that and just relax. And I did just that. And I watched I believe I started watching them in order, and it was like I watched Sith first, and then whatever came after that. I think Screecher's Reach, and I absolutely was just like, okay, cool. I'm satisfied. I'm gonna put this down for a little bit, and I'll come back to it tomorrow. And that's how I watched the series, like one or two a day. So, anyways, each moment I just appreciated. I fell in love with the story. Look, I feel like the people making this are definitely, maybe they're like a, maybe like a, I don't know, like, not, I don't want to say they're not fans of Star Wars, but they should know enough, right, to make these shorts. And I feel like they pull at like very surface level stuff. Is when you think of Star Wars, you think of stormtroopers, you think of the Force, you think of Sith, Jedi. I feel like they pull surface level concepts and just like dig miles below with them. Like we touch all these themes in like under 14 minutes that I'm just like, how did you make me go through this roller coaster emotions with like well-known concepts in Star Wars, right? Like the Force and stuff like that. And Each story was just very heartfelt, maybe except one that I was just like, but mostly all of them were just very heartfelt. And I love, and I'll just say it right here, Vision Season 2, Volume 2, way better than Volume 1. Volume 1, I was just like, yeah, this is cool, this is nice. Anime is really not for me. If it is for you, awesome. It's just not really for me. Star Wars to me has always been about storytelling and stuff, and some of them did that. Some of the shorts did that in Season 1. But I feel with what comes with the style of anime is this obsession with fighting, and I don't know. It's just like it's overly done in dramatics, the fighting styles and stuff. And I don't think that's really what Star Wars is about. If you go watch Transformers, that's what those films are about. So I think that would be blended in greatly. But for this, I think Visions Volume 2 really captured the heart of Star Wars. You got the mother-daughter dynamic, the brother-sister dynamic. Like, it was just father-daughter dynamic. It was great. It was like, when I think of StarArs, I always think of feeling and heart, and Volume 2 was full of it. So I definitely have already started rewatching a lot of the shorts when I'm going to sleep, and it is just the most relaxing thing ever. So shout out to Lucasfilm for being like, you know what, we did the anime thing. We're trying to get anime people into Star Wars. That's cool. I support that. But now we're going to do something different, you know? And they did that. And I just love these shorts. I'm glad it exists. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Michelle, how did you feel? And tell us about your experience as well that Mike alluded to.
Yeah. I had the most wonderful opportunity to review these ahead of the release on Star Wars Day. It was amazing. And I'm still so speechless and so incredibly grateful for the opportunity. It's so cool, like, to be able to do that and to just
hell
just like have that experience. Sorry, I'm fumbling for words because it truly is like, it brings me to like tears sometimes, and like it's just incredibly overwhelming in like the best way. So I had that great opportunity. So I did sort of the opposite of Mike and watched all of them at one sitting. I took
If I had the
notes.
If I had the screeners, I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So no worries.
Yeah, I feel like, well, and I got them particularly late in the game too. I only watched them like on the Monday before May 4th. So I sort of was crunched for time a little bit, or else I think I would have liked to spread them out a little bit more and like take my time with them. So I was under a little bit of a time crunch, but I certainly think that did not hinder my experience at all, because I absolutely loved them. I loved Volume 1 of Visions and had never really watched any anime. So it was like brand new for me, and I think that's why I loved it so much. And considering that the shorts came from all these different studios, I felt that they were different enough where, sort of what Mike was talking to earlier, like just each of these studios taking an idea, a simple idea from Star Wars, whether it's a lightsaber fight or this idea of someone learning to become a hero, whatever it is, a simple idea, a concept from Star Wars, and taking it and putting it in their own tone. Like the concept of Visions alone is so remarkable. So personally, I really loved Volume 1. So I came into Volume 2 knowing, okay, this is like going to be great. We've got different animation styles. It's going to be even better. And then when I watched them, it was even better than I had possibly even could have imagined. Like, I knew they were going to be good, but I never could have expected how much I love this show. I truly believe Visions is one of the most genius things Star Wars has done. It's one of my favorite things Star Wars has done ever.
Yes.
My favorite short, which I know we're going to touch on, I think is one of the best in the stars. It's one of the best stories in Star Wars of all time. And I think what's so remarkable too is the cohesiveness of the second volume across the different studios, across the stories, to come with this overall theme of like, what is the Force? What does the Force mean in terms of finding your light, finding your voice, using your power? It's so cool. It's so genius. The way that they were able to like essentially like get all these stories together and be like, okay, we're going to find a cohesiveness across all of the, all of them to find a theme for the volume. Yeah, and then of course, like the different animation styles were just absolutely incredible as well. I've obviously been a very huge fan of Star Wars animation for so long, so to get this variety and diverse storytelling and animation is really cool. That was a lot. But,
yeah, awesome. And all right, what you think? What you make of all this?
Yeah, I think I'm very much on the same page as you, Mike, in terms of when I watched Volume 1. I remember at the time I thought it was cool, and for the most part I enjoyed each of those shorts, but I think as time went on I just really forgot about them because people will probably challenge me on this, but I don't think there was a lot of compelling storytelling being done in those shorts. Some of them were great for sure, but yeah, same with Mike. I'm not really into the anime stuff, so that season just wasn't really for me, but I'm glad there are people out there that enjoyed it. Volume 2, however, is just fantastic. It's everything that the show should be, because it's all about telling Star Wars from the perspectives of different cultures here on Earth. You know what I mean? Which I think that's just I agree with Michelle. It's just a genius idea. And it's so important as well, because then it means everyone in the world can sort of see themselves in Star Wars in a much more literal sense if they felt like they haven't already, or, they can go on to see themselves even more. So I think it's great. And Volume 2, there are a few shorts I don't really vibe with, but there's some that I absolutely love. And that's sort of the nature of these sorts of series where, they're all shorts and it's a bit of an, it's an anthology, I suppose, where, they're all unrelated. But yes, some of them were really fantastic. I'm keen to dive into them, but yeah, I'm with Mike as well. I kind of relish them and just watch a couple at a time, because I think, if I was in Michelle's position, I definitely would have binged them as well. However, for me, I just thought, okay, I'll sort of space these out to the point where I was like, oh my God, we're actually recording the podcast today. I better finish these off. But overall, had a super positive experience with Visions, and I just think it's an important project for Lucasfilm to pursue. I would love to see more of these. After season 1 of Visions, I actually was with Mike when they announced season 2, and I was like, oh, really? Like, more? Why are we putting our resources into that? I just, because I kind of assumed we would get more of the same with Volume 1, which, like I said, just wasn't really for me. But the way they've kind of pursued this project, the direction they've taken it in is perfect, and I love it for what it is. Is it my favorite Star Wars thing? No, but like my other two, the other two people I'm here talking about Visions with, Star Wars animation is just a great way to tell Star Wars stories. So I'm always here for it, and I just think it's great. And let's start diving into the episodes, because we got 9 to talk about. We're going to do our best to cover them in a nice, concise way. But let's start with Sith, the first short. I'll start us off here. I thought this was a great episode. Not one of my favorites, but it was definitely a great way to start the series in terms of the story was compelling, but also the animation was just beautiful. And the animators really used the animation to tell the story, which I thought was great and kind of reflective of, a big part of what Visions is all about. And I thought also just the idea of a Sith apprentice running away and then the master chasing after them. I thought that was just a really neat idea. So overall, I had a super fun time with this one. I loved our main character's droid companion. I thought that was fantastic. And then the sort of the empowering moment that the protagonist has at the end of the short, where I think the great thing about this short, it's super up to interpretation, because there's so much going on. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, but I love that moment where she sort of really, for me, that was a acceptance of who she was, where she kind of embraces that darkness is sort of a part of her, because she's been trying to avoid it the whole time, and she kind of extends her lightsaber, and then the red comes out, and sort of finding that healthy balance between light and dark. And it was a beautiful Star Wars story, and I think while it wasn't my favorite, I thought it was a really great way to start Volume 2 of Visions, because it really embodied what the series is all about. So I had a great time with it. Michelle, what did you think of Sith?
I really liked it. I thought it was like the perfect opener for the volume, especially because it didn't have any music at the beginning, and you're just like taking in Lola's like surroundings in her world, and you're seeing E2, her droid, and you're just sort of looking at who she is. Yeah, so good. I agree that like having the style of animation, the paint strokes, the brush strokes, being not only the setting and like the animation style, but then also part of the plot was so genius. And that's one of the reasons I really like this one. It's so unique, like blending the animation itself with the story. I just thought was really genius. And yeah, I would agree with you. It's such a cool moment when she realizes she needs to stop fighting the darkness being a part of her world, and says light and dark are both part of the painting. She's realizing she has these two sides of herself, but they equal one whole self. Yeah, it's just like a cool message, something we've never really seen before. Like that perspective of the dark side from a Sith character, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, so it was unexpected in like the best way.
Absolutely. Mike, anything to add about Sith?
Nope. But the only thing is that it was very kind of cool and scary at the same time. Well, every time she was painting, and it would be these bright colors and colorful colors, and it would just turn dark and start bleeding and everything. Like that was just really cool. And as you guys said, how I just loved how it was the art that conveyed the story, and it was very genius. It was a great way to start off this palette of flavors in Visions season or volume 2.
I
Absolutely.
have an addition, actually. Can I pose a
go
question
for it.
to both of you?
Go for it.
I got Obi-Wan Maul vibes from the fight, and I thought it was really genius of them, because a ton of the marketing for the show has been featuring Lola and the Sith Master and their fight, and then you come to watch the whole thing and you realize that their actual fighting is very short, because it's not about the fight, it's about Lola's journey of self-discovery and acceptance. And I was curious to see if what you guys thought of that.
Yeah, I definitely, I remember you mentioned that to me a bit ago, I think in one of our conversations the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, you're totally so right. I did get that vibe too. It was like kind of like, I'm like, oh yeah, somebody this cool like paint type fight, and it was short, as you mentioned, and I even loved her line where she was like, I'm no Sith. Like that was just, I mean, obviously, the Ahsoka parallel there, but yeah,
Very
that was,
Star Wars-y.
so yeah, 2 nods to Rebels, maybe intentionally or unintentional, but
Well,
I'll take
think
it.
it was intentional, because if you look at the setup of the shot too, it's like you can see the two figures. The position, like the setup of the camera, right, is like the same. It's the same type of shot. So I think it really was intentional. I'm believing to believe it was intentional.
Maybe that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A win is a win.
Yeah. Real only thing I have to add to that is just to say, in agreement with you guys, Star Wars fights are always at their best when there's something actual behind it. You don't, not to rag on any recent media that's come out, but
Or like the
just
anime fights.
well, that's actually the perfect example because speaking in the realm of Visions, just seeing characters with lightsabers fight, great, but something like this, perfect. So much behind it. Reminds me of not to put it quite on this level, but like a Luke and Vader thing in Return of the Jedi. But let's move on to Screecher's Reach. Mike, why don't you start us off talking about that episode 2 of volume 2?
Amazing music, great. I love how at the beginning it totally felt like a Wes Anderson project, where you get like this wide shot of just the inner workings of a building going on and stuff. I don't know, just remind me of his work for a second. But there was the I don't know what her name is, but the main character, the girl going on this quest. What's her name?
Doll.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Star Wars names are just for Andor and stuff like this. It's just never. Anyways. But yeah, she very compelling character. You get to see a little bit of what their life is working in a factory and stuff, and then wanting something more. And it just leads them on to like this quest of finding this ghost. And it just felt like I don't know, like I kind of, it was like creepy, but also like it kind of reminded me of Adventure Time. Kind of, I watched a few episodes of that when I was a kid. It just reminded me of going on this like cool adventure. I don't know. And I absolutely love the visuals in this. Like I said, the characters were really cool and spunky. And when we got to see, when we got to go into this like coven or something, or this cave, and they're looking for this ghost, like, oh, I didn't see the ghost. Oh, I just saw the ghost. Like the little kid saying that when he saw the force spirit, that was so funny. But I was kind of just really like, oh, that was cute. That was really nice. You know, she found like this cool like looking shell that, you know, Mother Townsend gives to Savage to like locate Maul. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Wait,
Think about that.
I never made that connection. Oh, sweet. Sorry,
No,
I
you're
interlude. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I thought the same when I was watching. I'm like, oh, and isn't the character at the end named Mother or something?
Sith Mother.
Sith Mother. Yeah, I know, crazy. I,
Oh
maybe
my
maybe
god,
these
I'm
guys
having my
are like,
mind blown right now. That's amazing. Wow.
So at the end, yeah, I thought this was like a cute short, and then Doll decides to leave with Sith Mother, or no, with the is Sith Mother at the end, and I was just like, what? My mouth just dropped. I saw this meme of Walter White screaming from a truck. I guess he was captured or something, and he's just screaming in the truck. And someone was like, "Me at the end of Screecher's Reach," and it was Walter White screaming from the truck, and it was just like that was me. I think I was having like a slice of pizza and watching this. I was like, "Oh, that was very cute." And then she decides to leave, and all her friends are just kind of shell shocked. Some of them are like really sad, and I'm like, what is this? What was this? Like, this broke my heart. So yeah, at the end, I absolutely loved this short. Like I said, I really loved everything about it. Like the other day I put it on just as I'm going to sleep, and it's just very comforting, except maybe the witch's scream was horrifying. That was kind of horrifying, but then the end was very sad. So I think I'm just gonna like maybe like screen record it off Disney Plus, like maybe like the first half of it, and then just put it on a loop and not watch whatever comes after that. Because like I said, it's horrifying and then devastating. So, but Michelle, what you think of it?
I'm still processing you saying that you put it on us in the background as like something nice to watch.
That's
because
what I'm saying.
I wrote down legit scary and WTF. What?
Maybe
that is you have a complete opposite.
I cannot believe you find it comforting. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
We're halfway to Halloween. I'm just getting in those Halloween vibes. Maybe.
That is wild. Hey, that's why these conversations are great, because you just get completely different perspectives. Well, I'm glad you loved it. I loved it as well. It was
in a different manner.
Yeah. I loved it because I found it very creepy and scary, and the whole time you're wondering what is Doll after. I really liked the mystery element of it. And then the surprise of Doll taking the killing blow and then walking outside like shell shocked, and then the freaking scary like alien ship comes down, and then there is the Sith Mother. It was so unexpected, and like just the most brilliant combination of like beautiful visuals and a compelling story. Yeah, I would say that I really loved it. I found it creepy.
Not a comforting
in like a good way. No, not comforting.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't if I was trying to fall asleep, I would not put on Screecher's Reach, especially because of the wailing ghost.
That's the only time where I check my volume, because everything else I was just like just vibing with. And then I literally checked my volume. I was like, oh wait, that part is coming up, and I lowered it. So yeah, that's the only part that is scary to me, but that's it.
Yeah, I really don't have much to add to that at all. I didn't really like the short, if I'm going to be completely honest. I can't believe you find it comforting, Mike.
I can't believe you didn't even like it.
No, that's not really my kind of Star Wars, to be honest. I definitely see why people do, but I'm not really into the whole creepy thing. I sort of
have you watched horror movies? Conjuring.
I've watched horror movies. I don't really enjoy them, to be completely honest. Not because they're scary. That's a whole other rant that this podcast is already like stringent for time. I'm not going to go into, but this just wasn't really for me. The only moment that really stuck out to me was maybe at the end. The main character has that sort of look back to her friends and starts crying, and you kind of tell that they knew that they were making the wrong decision, but they just want to get away so badly that I was like, okay, like that was definitely compelling, but just not really my vibe. But if you liked it, cool. Happy for both of you. Anyway, let's talk about In the Stars, which was a fantastic short. I know that it was the one Michelle was referencing earlier in the show, but yeah, man, from the animation style to just like the colors and the light, just everything, and the sound, and even the voice acting, I thought was great. Beside the throughout all of Visions, the children characters, the child characters have annoyed me a little bit, I will say, just like through the really like playful sort of tone of voice, which I know that's a weird complaint, but it took me out of it at times, and so did it did in this one. But I was like,
Ari hates kids.
I had pretty much. No, I just was like, okay, I need to get past it. That's just how kids talk. Anyway, but no, this one was fantastic. Super compelling story. I just loved finding out how our characters got to the point that they were. I thought finding that out through the painting was fantastic, because, and even the fact that was a painting had meaning to what we were talking about, and it all just tied together really nicely. Also, I love the design of the main Imperial sort of villain. I thought that was great and just fit the style so well. I thought it was just an awesome story about like sort of hope and belief, and paying respect to people who have been in your life and no longer are. And how they still live in you and all that sort of stuff. It was just really beautiful. I don't know if it was my favorite, but it was definitely in my top couple. I thought it was, it really blew my socks off. I could not believe that we got that, to be honest, in a Visions anthology series. But how good was it, Michelle? Tell us.
It was amazing. It was the best.
Yeah.
I really do believe it's one of the best stories Star Wars has ever done. I cried through most of it on my initial viewing. I truly did. Not only does it do what you spoke of, Ari, just this story of how do you carry the people that you lost with you, and how do you still see them in the world, like that whole idea of their mom being that bright star. Oh, it's gorgeous and so touching. But the history behind this, so this is the short that was created by the Chilean studio, and basically it is a Star Wars version of a real like genocide that happened in Chile. Native people were killed, and so the costumes like of our main characters look like, or they have face paint and ceremonial garb on, and like in the 1900s, like essentially less than 100 years ago, this horrific event was happening in Chile that many people don't know about, myself included, but even Chileans, like they don't know their own history. So anyway, that was a very expedited version of that story, but essentially I find it really cool. And to your point earlier, Ari, about like, this is what Visions is about. When the stories that we consume like reflect our world, it just means it makes all the difference for those people. So I think the telling of that story through Star Wars not only gives it visibility, but it's doing justice to all of the people that were killed cruelly and horribly, and shows resistance and power and taking back power. So utterly brilliant. I could go on and on about this one, but I wanted to speak to that in particular.
Fantastic. That's great insight.
Well, thank you for doing
Mike,
so.
what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think this one is my favorite of the it's kind of hard. I think I might swap it out with another one, but I think this one's my favorite. It was just really touching. I love that sister bond, and I love in the promos we see that shot of the little sister gonna use the Force on the TIE fighter, and I'm like, Oh yeah, it's stereotypical. They're gonna have this cool like force moment, whatever. It's
Yeah.
but it just ended up not being that. The sister just grabs her immediately. It's like, what are you doing? And absolutely loved that she ended up having that same power as her mom. Like that was really touching. And at the end, I was like, this is why I love creative stories like this because it reminded me of Rebels and the Lasats having their own interpretation of the Force. So I was like, for me, I would love if this was canon, not for validity or to say, these events happen, but really because I just love this interpretation of the Force so much that I wish that it could be. And I know that one day Lucasfilm Story Group will be like, oh, let's adapt that into maybe we need this for this species. Like they totally could, but I just love the way they did it here, and I would love if that was just canonized so we can be like, oh yeah, these people, this is how they viewed the Force and something and stuff. So these days, to me, I don't really care what's canon and what's not. I'm just like, it's never a I feel like it's not concrete as it used to be. So it's just like, to me, in my little own fantasy, I guess, to me that's just like, yeah, that this exists out there.
Mm,
This Force, the way these
I'm with
people view
you.
the Force and everything, just it was really touch. It was beautiful. It was touching, and at the end, that did get me a little teary eyed. So it was really great.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fantastic short. I think we can all agree on that. Next up, we had "I Am Your Mother," which was another one of my personal favorites. I love this tone in Star Wars. I think it's fantastic, and this was the only studio of any of season 1 and 2 of Visions that I had any familiarity with, as they did do Wallace and Gromit, which I used to watch as a little kid. So I was this was the one I was most anticipating for sure. I kind of from the first few minutes immediately understood the tone. I also knew Dennis Lawson was going to be in it, which I was excited about. Obviously playing Wedge. So yeah, did it deliver? Yes, I think it absolutely did. I thought it was heartfelt, it was funny, it was camp at times. Like I just thought it was so. It literally felt like watching Wallace and Gromit and Star Wars. But yeah, I don't know if the writers were the same or anything like that, or if there was crossover there. But it had that same tone, which I absolutely loved, and I love the messaging about parenting and being a kid to your parent and all that sort of stuff. And just about family and what it means to take pride in your family. Even if your mum's a cleaner and that your friend's mum is a ace pilot or whatever. It's like, no, take pride in your family. And I really love what this had to say, and it did it in a super fun, quirky way where it's like it kind of proves to me that a lot of people sort of have this argument in Star Wars that, well, it was fun. I'm like, okay, you can still make something that's fun and still has something to say and is a compelling story. This was super fun, but it also had something to say and it was a great story. And I don't, I don't really love the argument of, oh, well, it was fun, because you can. This is to me fun. I just enjoyed watching it, and but it also told this beautiful message about family, which I loved. And out of all the ones, it might not have been my favorite, but it's the one I want to rewatch the most. And I can totally see myself. This is the one that I find comfort in. Not Screecher's Reach like Mike, but like this is the one that if I was, want to go watch something as I fall asleep, it'll be this. I absolutely love this short. Michelle, what did you think?
I would agree. I found it really, really enjoyable and quite the roller coaster, going from crying my eyes out in the stars immediately into laughing and just
Yeah,
having the
yeah,
time of my life watching I Am Your Mother. I would agree. I think it found the perfect balance between having humor, but then having that like touch of sentimentality and a lesson and an emotion at the end. It was utterly brilliant. Um,
mm,
I really loved all the details in the environment as well. Like the animation just lended itself to having Easter eggs galore in like the background of the market, or it's not even a market; it's like the racetrack or whatnot. And yeah, overall, it was just super fun, and I really can't wait to watch this one with my mom.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mike, how about you? Did you enjoy I Am Your Mother?
Eh, um, It didn't have a screaming witch in it, so it just kind of wasn't comforting.
It didn't do it for you.
It didn't do it for- No, this was the one I want to watch the most for sure. I used to watch a little bit of Wallace and Gromit, but I watched a lot of Shaun the Sheep whenever that was
that's right.
on, and
Yeah.
I really it was when I sat down and opened my laptop up and I put Visions on after work, and I was just gonna have lunch. I'm like, I know what I'm gonna put on, but I'm like, I'll just watch them in chrono. But it was my most anticipated, and it was just funny, and I just felt like I was a kid, and I'm just like, man, I would have loved stuff, all the palette that we got. I would have loved as a kid, you know, these Star Wars stories, but it was just still so comforting, and I love the message behind it, and yeah, it's like it's just so silly to me because I've also been there. I could relate to this story a lot because I've been in that situation plenty of times as a kid where I'm like, I'm embarrassed by my parents, but it's like for what? Like we were just so silly thinking of in that way and whatnot, and it's just like, no, be proud of your mom, you know. It's like that's awesome. She's a hustler, and when she came in there and saved the day, I'm like, there. It's just like, yeah, that's just what moms do. Absolutely loved this story, and yeah, it was, I don't know why Wedge Antilles need to be in it, but sure, why not? I guess maybe whoever was putting this together was like, man, I grew up loving Wedge Antilles, I need him in this, like, good for them. But I was just like, what? At least he got more of a screen time than Rise of Skywalker, but ouch. But yeah, that was good, and I love seeing the Mantis in here too, that ship design from Fallen Order. That was funny.
That was cool.
It was in there, yeah, on the racetrack. The Mantis, yeah.
That's amazing. I did
Yeah,
not
I
notice
was
that.
like,
It was like
wow,
a
that's-
mini mantis almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Love
just funny though. I was just like, man, they just know their stuff. But yeah, I would love to if we get a volume 3, give me another studio like this putting one together. That would be great.
Absolutely. And yeah, let's move on to Journey to the Dark Head. I believe that's what it's called. Michelle, why don't you start us off with that? Tell us about this short.
I liked this one. I think it is probably most comparable to The Ninth Jedi from the first volume, which I know was a huge favorite of a lot of people. My favorite thing about this short is, in fact, how much of the lore that there was. I immediately, after finishing, wanted to have a sequel, wanted to know more about the world. I will say there was so much history and lore packed into, a relatively short time span that I actually rewound and watched a scene again, just because I'm much more of a visual, I guess I prefer to learn the story through visual versus just dialogue exposition. So in that way, it's definitely just a different style and different tone of because it is anime. It's different from all the others, and you sort of have to watch it in a different way and through a different lens. I did watch the Korean language version as well, which I think was totally the way to go. And it lends itself exactly to the style that, just very fierce and bold voice acting. And then you combine that with especially in the lightsaber fight. So that was really, really great. And especially if you are an anime fan, I think you're going to love this one. I also really enjoyed the dynamic between the two characters, Toll and I am forgetting the mechanic's name, Ara, maybe. But they reminded me so much of just duos that we've seen in Star Wars before, like a classic 3PO and R2 situation where they have to work together and they're companions, but then they're butting heads and their dynamics are,
Ezra and Sabine.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, Han and Chewie, even when they're arguing. So yeah, I liked that, and especially at the end where they were admitting that they, were gonna need to just keep in touch and continue their journey up throughout the galaxy. Oh yeah, yep, you two are stuck with each other clearly. So yeah, I quite liked it. I'd certainly wish that it was longer, to just develop out more of that story and history. But yeah.
Isn't it sucks because even in the realm of volume 1 of Visions, getting the history of the universe of the galaxy and the Ninth Jedi in the duel, even in Ocho and
Wapanocho.
Apinocho,
Lava Nitro, yeah.
that was
Favorite of mine.
even the lore, and that was great. Like I just want to know more.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
I want to continue these stories, even
I
though if
know.
I'm not a fan of the visuals, I want to continue these stories. Ari's just laughing at saying La Pinocchio.
No,
What are you laughing about?
You said it. You said it in a funny way. Sorry. I'm back.
Okay, he's back. But yeah, like I thought, I'm just like, and this was another one where I'm like so invested in the history, because at the beginning I got total Avatar: The Last Ender and Airbender vibes. I want to say Andor vibes, Airbender vibes,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh man, like it was just great. I love that they were setting up this universe, and I'm like, man, it's very short lived, because then even we meet this Jedi Council that I was like, wait, is this canon or because it was so similar to the Jedi Council that we see on Coruscant, but this one was above like in a space station or something. I'm like, wait, like what is this? So I definitely could see the Lucasfilm story group taking elements for here to develop for canon and whatnot. But I thought actually this one was the one I saved for last, because I was just like, oh, anime. I tired me out last time where I rewatched maybe like the Duel and another one once or twice, and that was it. Shout out, Michelle, what's the last episode of Volume 1?
Akakiri.
That one, everyone skipped over that. Like no one talked about that. Everybody was talking about the Duel and the twins, blah 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 blah. That one was a great surprise. I love that one. That one was great. Anyways, but this one, I was like, I was hesitant into it. By the end, it was my least favorite of the batch here. But I was like, oh man, that was good. Like I can't lie, like that was good. I got a little bored with the fighting. I can't lie. Like it just seems like it just seems too overdone for me. Where I'm like, just like Bad Batch, when you have all the clones scrambling, shooting around directionless. It's just, what are we doing here? And that's kind of what it felt like for me. Just a flashy sword duel, which again, Star Wars isn't. But still, other than that, I actually really liked the story, and I thought the mechanic was great. I love the voice acting. She sounded a lot like Sabine, and that's
what
why
I thought.
Yeah,
I genuinely went onto
thought it was Tia
IMDb
Sakar.
to
Oh,
check
no.
if it was Tia Sakar, and I was like, why does this sound like Sabine?
It was
But
very,
wasn't, but, yeah.
it was very similar to Tia Sakar. And then I actually watched. I'm doing a Rebels rewatch, as many know, and I watched Blood Sisters today, and this was like a perfect what would you call those? Like two movies, double feature. It was a great double feature watching Blood Sisters, the Ezra for a bit, Ezra and Sabine banter, and then getting that type of sibling rivalry here with the insults and everything. Like it was just great. Even at the end when they made up and everything, like, oh, I respect you. And she was like, for a Jedi, I thought, or you really like demystified the Jedi for me or something like that, she said. And I thought that was funny. So not much to say here other than I liked it. How about you, Ori?
Yeah.
You hated this
Yeah,
one.
no,
Why?
I didn't hate it at all. It was just the one that I watched, and I was like, okay, that's one of the ones that just wasn't for me. Once again, I think I enjoyed elements of it, but I think just the anime style where they're just running around fighting all for 10 minutes, I just sort of get lost in it, and I'm like,
Damn.
oh, okay. But it was okay. Not my favorite one, but one that was one of my favorite ones was episode 6, the Spy Dancer. This one was fantastic. Michelle, kick us off once again talking about the Spy Dancer.
Yes. This one was really cool. This is another one where I was like, I need a sequel ASAP.
Yes.
I really liked it, and I found the animation just so incredibly beautiful. It was so vibrant and colorful, and the way that the animators like distinguished the background from the moving characters, like just given like the shapes of the main characters. I don't know how to describe that. Clearly I'm not like a design person, but like there was so much, the background was just gorgeous and like landscape painterly whatever, and then you could tell like it's like the thing that the old Disney movies used to do. You could tell like if a character was standing in front of a bookshelf and they were going to pull a book from it, you could tell which book they were going to pull because it looked
it's detailed.
different. Yeah, well,
Right.
it less detailed in order to allow for the animation of the element versus like a very detailed background. So anyway, that was like a weird explanation, but I loved that about this particular short and those animation details. I really found the story quite fun, and I think they fit a ton in there in not a lot of time. You know, we got to really feel the relationship between Louis, I think is her name, and her fellow like cabaret performers, the girl, and then of course, there was the mechanics in the sewers. And so, yeah, that was kind of cool just to see that. And then the mystery element of her being like, I need to, I need to do this. I need to figure out who this is. I really like that. Yeah, that particular moment where her friend, I think his name was John, right? John was telling her, like, get back here, or like, you need to leave now. And she said some line of dialogue that just was like, this is my, like, insinuating this is her personal freedom, this is her justice, this is the thing in her mind that needs to be solved and she needs answers for. It's just a really powerful moment because for so long, right, she and her friends have been working for the rebellion and doing all this very difficult work for years on end, which we know from the inspiration of this short, these real French dancers, they Josephine Baker, and there's like others. You can Google the history behind it, but these were like real things that these dancers did in the world wars against Nazi soldiers. They would spy and get that information to the resistance. So anyway, my point is, I loved that little turning point moment for her of being like, no, I have to do this. And then obviously the twist at the end to see that character reveal, and be like, oh my God, that's her son. It was crazy.
I love that they never took off he never took off the eye patch. Like you just knew. It wasn't like, oh, you had to spell it out to the audience. Like you just knew. That was great.
And someone else pointed out to me fairly recently that at the end, when he either has his cap off or he removes the eye patch or whatever it is, that you see his horns shaved down. Oh. I never noticed that. Anyway, this is why we need a sequel, okay? Because we need to know, like, what is the son thinking? We need to see him realize that he's been conditioned to, like, fight and care about the Empire when he shouldn't. Like, oh my God, I have so many questions, and I want so much more.
Yes.
But yeah, it was amazing. That was a lot, but yes, overall, 10 out of 10.
So I'm going to retweet what you just said, and then I'm going to quote tweet it with,
okay, yes.
Saying, I thought it was, this is probably like my other favorite one from the batch. Just loved it. I loved in all the promos, they had the dancer coming down and twirling with her big dress. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. The spy dance. Okay, sure. I don't know how I felt about the animation style just from the promos, but then I started watching it and I just fell in love with it. Like it was just great. It did feel like the old Disney like movies that they used to do and stuff. And I thought that was all great, and I love diving us right into this world of we're gonna place these things onto these chips onto them, and they're gonna be locators and whatever, and we're gonna figure them out. And I just love the whole operation. We're thrown into it already, and then things go awry and stuff, and I absolutely love that reveal where I'm like, oh yeah, she's gonna kill the guy that took away her son or whatever. And just when she's about to, she realizes it's not, and she has like this moment, and he's like, "Oh, it's a rebel." And I thought that was it. Just everything what you just said, literally, and then whatever the nonsense I just had to add. But like, 100% love this short. If I could recommend one from this show that absolutely you need to watch, it's this one. It's mad crazy. It's great.
Yeah. It was, I think, the most compelling story that was told throughout the whole night. The whole of Visions, I would say, was fantastic, and the way things were slowly revealed to us, the world building was great, and then all leading up to that moment at the end where the mother's like, no, he has his way back to me now, and then we hear the beeping of the tracker. I thought, perfect. Fantastic storytelling and a great short, for sure, one of my favorites. But Mike, let's talk about the Bandits of Golak, because I know you love that one. So lead us off talking about the seventh short.
This one is in my top 3. Absolutely love this one. I love the Indian inspiration behind it. The music was great, and I'm like, this just vibes with Star Wars. I mean, we've had Indian music before in Star Wars, in Clone Wars with Hondo Naka's Band of Pirates, which actually I watched the episode today, so it was like it just you know, I'm just like, man, I'm just because I'm in the Indian music vibe, but the Golak. I love this. I just love sibling stories in Star Wars, and the brother sister dynamic was great. And we were on this cool train thing, and um, another story where it's like I'm like, oh great, someone hiding that they have the Force. I'm like, how many times have we seen this play out? Especially with the Fallen Order stories. So it's like we just lived through this, but they have like their own twist on it and everything, and the animation style. Like at first, someone might be like, oh, that's peculiar. I thought it was great, and I'm like, how come we don't have a show like this in Star Wars? I don't know. I thought it was really unique. You know, it felt very inspired, and I know people prefer nowadays the CG animation over the 2D, which I understand, but it's like if this is just one of the better ones, I'm just like it because it feels so inspired, and not just like no shade to Illumination Studios and the Mario movie, but it just doesn't seem like just not that doesn't take work, but this just feels very inspired instead of like, oh yeah, we could just pump these movies out, you know. Anyways, and plus you also had like the typical calling, like, oh, someone with the Force, and then they get get hunted down by an Inquisitor, which was so weird to see Purge Troopers in animation because we haven't seen them yet, besides in the games and comics and novels. But this was their first time being in animation, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks crazy good. So I absolutely love the Inquisitor reveal, and when all the food starts flying around, and it's just like the boy who cried wolf. It's like, come on, it was you all those other times. Why isn't I going to be you this time? And he's like, it isn't me. And it was the old lady who, with her cane, just took out two lightsabers, which was mad crazy. And I just love the aesthetic of that diner area and being in the sand, because all the trailers I'm like, oh, is this Inquisitor guy going to a carnivore or something? And it just ended up being the complete opposite, which I thought was funny. So great episode. Like I want to watch this one again. I haven't been able to rewatch it, but I want to watch it again because it was just, again, the music was great, such a vibe, and then the sibling stories was and the brother, that was crazy how I love the, and seeing lollipops in Star Wars was so crazy too. I'm like, you know what? I dig it. I dig it. When can they sell those at Galaxy's Edge? I would love to.
That's an Indian dessert because I've had it at a restaurant one time. So that was just a random detail I picked up on that was super cool. So you can go out to an Indian restaurant and actually buy that.
Oh wow. Okay. I thought those were just like carnival like lollipops. Okay, cool. You see, like I just love that Indian rep in Star Wars, and I think they should do more of it. So yeah.
100. Michelle, what did you think?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with all of Mike's points. There was no dull moment whatsoever. I couldn't believe like how many different settings and moments in the story were fit into this short. Like the whole train sequence, but then to go from like that and then the transition into like it's a dhaba is what it's called, the roadside, the like what we thought was the carnival. Those are real like they're like roadside truck stops in India. That are meant to like have bright colors and lights and to attract travelers, and they usually serve like they have like the restaurant component of it. So yeah, I fully agree with Mike's point of like just the blend of the very Star Warsy things that we would recognize, like Arabesh signs and the clothing, the blending that then with just beautiful, authentic Indian culture is everything. It was just so good. I also really did enjoy the lightsaber fight as well. The animation style just lended itself to that fight and made it really beautiful. And in an effort not to repeat exactly everything that Mike said, I agree. And yeah, it's amazing.
Retweet with a quote retweet. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm with both. Yeah, I'm gonna just retweet both of what you guys said. I think the main thing that really stuck out to me was the animation, because I thought kind of like what Mike was saying. I was like, man, like you could do a lot with this style. It's really fantastic. I could look at this all day, and the bright colors were fantastic. It was just very aesthetically pleasing, and And yeah, love the representation and the interpretation of Indian culture in Star Wars was fantastic, and the characters were great. The old wise lady at the end, that reveal was just awesome. I love that. So yeah, let's talk about the pit, Mike. Once again, lead us off with this one. This was a cool one. What did you think, Mike?
Oh, the pit.
Yeah.
This is one that I saw in the thumbnail. And I'm like, is this anime? Because I was just I'm telling you, I was so worn out from last time that I just didn't want anything to do with it. But there's just like I don't know what it reminded me of, but it just felt, I love like how 90s it felt, like the animation style of the anime felt very 90s style. And I like, it was just cruel, I think, because you had these workers like working, and then you saw what happens when you don't dig. And they finally like dug, like they got all the resources that they needed, and once they hit the very bottom, I was like, the stormtroopers like, oh, we're done here. And then they released the handcuffs, and I'm like, okay, that, oh, they're gonna let them go. That's cool. Like, I totally forgot the name of the episode, and I was like, oh, okay, they're gonna let them go. Very, very nice. I'm like, maybe the Empire are the good guys here. We don't know. I mean, obviously they're not. I'm like, maybe we'll see. I'm interested. And then they just start leaving other ships and they abandon them. And I thought that was just gut wrenching. I literally felt claustrophobia kick in when they were all down there, because I'm like, get out, like do something, does anyone have the force? So yeah, and then you had the one guy climb up, and I love the absolute fixation on the what would you call that little creature that was going in and out of the dirt? Is there a name for it? I don't know. It reminded me of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I was just like, okay, cool. And the animal ended up helping out, and the one guy that I'm like, oh, he's gonna go save them and everything, and nobody was listening to him, and which I thought was also wrenching, because it's like, yeah, what did you expect? Like, you're wearing prisoner uniform and you're coming out there and being like, oh, come save us. People are gonna think you're crazy, right? Until he finally did it, and people were so receptive of him, and they like, yeah, let's go. And then he got shunned away by the stormtroopers, which was so sad. But and then they ended up just dropping him to his death, which I thought was so sad as well. But then it inspired the girl main character here, and they got their stuff together. But overall, I just thought this one was a surprise. I think this was my what was the last episode of Volume 1, Michelle? Akakiri. This was my Akakiri. I thought this one was just great, fantastic. Like I love it, and I can't wait to rewatch this one. All right, what did you think of this one? Did you like it? Did you?
Yeah, I'm with you. It was definitely the surprise, because same as you, looking at the thumbnail, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then also kind of something you said earlier in the episode, Mike, was that a lot of the studios, it felt like, not that they weren't fans, but the Star Wars concepts in each of the shorts were very, very surface level, like stormtroopers, Jedi, lightsabers, right. And seeing that immediately, like, yeah, just seeing that immediately, like, oh, like stormtroopers and the Empire and stuff, I thought, oh, I don't know. But yeah, as we got into it, I really was like, wow, okay, this is a super compelling story. And I loved what they did with the main male character, where, yeah, I was genuinely devastated when he died, because I was like, no way, they've just done that. I thought when they threw him off, we were going to like transcend and be like, oh, it was all a flashback. He's actually just passed out somewhere or something. But I was like, no, he's really dead. His poor sister or whoever that was just had to go and see him get thrown off the edge. I thought that was horrible. But yeah, really, really good stuff. I loved the going and getting the town, and sort of the Empire has them under their grasp, where they don't even know what's going on. Someone had to go and speak up. It actually did give me Andor vibes, to be honest. So yeah, I really love this one. And also, last thing, have either of you seen? Oh yeah, that's right. also that. Have either of you seen Parks and Recreation?
I've not seen all of it, but I've seen episodes here and there.
To anyone that's listened to it, the whole time I just had Chris Pratt singing The Pit in my head. So it's just to anyone that's watched that show, I could not get that out of my head, and it's still ringing in my head just talking about it. But Michelle, what did you think of The Pit?
This one really surprised me. to echo what you said, Ari, I definitely got Andor vibes from this because I genuinely found it difficult to watch. I could not believe that they killed the boy. I could not believe that they had the Empire just leave all the prisoners there in that hole. Yeah, I was horrified. Like, I was genuinely emotionally horrified. And it's just an important story that's being told. I remember at the Visions panel at Celebration, the creators talked about that this story comes from the world that we live in. It's a reflection of the world that we live in, and how quite literally, in this case for the story, we have people that are the ones at the bottom, or the ones being oppressed, and the ones that are doing it and getting away with it. And then in particular, the group of people that are blissfully unaware and or ignorant of either their own intention or not. So what really surprised me about this was this message of, if you use your voice loud enough, you will reach some people, and that goodness in some people. And I just really appreciated that, because I think it can feel very disheartening, like, to be like, oh my gosh, I don't understand how there are so many people in the world that don't understand the injustice that people of color are facing. And like, especially right now, people that are part of the LGBTQ community, right? There's all this horrific, terrifying shit going on in our world. And it can be exhausting and disheartening to be like, no one's listening. And it's super easy to bucket people that aren't having those conversations as like they don't care, and maybe it's just that they genuinely don't know. So I just really appreciate this one. I have come to appreciate. I just really struggled with it initially, so I've come to appreciate it more, because it is difficult to watch, because it is emotional and horrifying, and they killed the main character, and they showed the Empire doing one of the most heinous things ever. So I'm just really grateful this story got told, because it's really important, and it was overall very well done, and emotional and horrifying, but hopeful at the same time, which is really cool. So
that's a great breakdown of the episode, and as they say throughout that, like, follow the light and all that sort of stuff kind of goes on to that, adds to what you're saying. So yeah, absolutely. Let's wrap it up by talking about the final short. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name because I don't know how, but Michelle, start us off talking about episode 9.
Yes, episode 9 is Ao's song. This one, as I like to say, is about Star Wars bears. The closest you're going to get to cute, adorable bears in Star Wars. This one was just precious and the perfect choice to end the volume, I think. It had, like, the animation style itself just was so cool. The textures of the characters in the world, just amazing. I want merch of those characters, like little plushies or something, because it was just so cool. I really liked the way that they were able to create expression on those characters' faces, because it appeared stop motion, I believe. Like, it appeared like it was stop motion,
right? It had like a different frame rate.
Which is even more incredible, that like they can get Ao's eyes like essentially eyebrows furrowing a little bit because she's not speaking, right? So then how do they show expression and emotion on her face? Well, then they do it with very subtle changes through her eye size and her face sort of scrunching in. Absolutely remarkable. Like, such a demonstration of the power of animation in that form. And as far as the story, I cried. It was beautiful. Quite the overall cap to a collection of stories that has been about finding your voice. And in this case, quite literally, she is using her voice. It was just touching and beautiful. And I am really, really happy that it ended the volume, because it just was amazing.
Yeah, I think I love the themes on this. I love the visuals too with the crystals and her being told not to like use her voice and whatnot. Exactly what you said, like using her voice. She did at the end, and it what was the word they used? That purified the crystals or something. She
Yeah.
so
Yeah, purified, right?
let's say purified. Like
Yeah.
that was really cool, and I actually rewinded it because I was like, wait, I need to see that again. And just seeing all the red go to blue was very nice. And I thought whoever was doing the singing or the voice actress, I thought that was beautiful. I was moved. But yeah, not much to say for me. I just thought it was not. I didn't think it was just cute. All right, don't come for me. But I was just like, oh man, this is cute, and I love the message behind it, and I'm gonna leave it at that. That's yeah. But it
I mean,
was
it's
a nice
funny.
cap at the end. It was a nice cap.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, so because I was literally like, oh yeah, that was cute. It was one of the ones that I was like, probably, but not really for me, not really my kind of vibe. But I liked the message, I liked the story, and it was definitely I'm trying to think to all of them. It was probably the most unique style, which I really appreciated. But yeah, I had an alright time watching it. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up our Visions season 2 talk. Before we go, I want to do a quick let's all just wrap up our thoughts, talk about how we felt about the series as a whole after breaking down all 9 episodes, and a top 3 episode ranking. Let's start with you, Michelle.
Oh man. Wow. What else can I say? No, just have so much to say. You know, where you're in that point where you're like, I have so much that I don't know what to say at all, or like how to summarize. Yeah, I just feel like this is such a special project, and I can't wait for what's next and to have Lucasfilm continue the core idea behind this, which is what are studios like? What studios across the world can we tap to tell a story that fits Star Wars, that is Star Wars, the kind of story that we know and love, but then also put their own spin on it and put their own history and culture and tone and love into it. It's so cool. It's just so cool that we get this and such a treat. And I've really been enjoying seeing people resonate with it. It's really cool this time around because these stories are from so many different cultures. Oh gosh, like having people like comment like on my post and be like, I'm from Chile. This is really cool that this is stories being told or whatever. It's so cool. And that's what Star Wars is about. That's what these favorite stories of ours are about and what they mean. So overall, this is just a gift to us and all of the Star Wars that we get all the time. This is a hidden gem because I think that maybe people aren't drawn to watch it initially if they're not as big into the animated shows, or they think that it's going to be a certain thing. But I will never stop talking about it. I will never stop recommending it to people in my life that are like, oh my gosh, Star Wars, where do I even begin? Like, I wouldn't tell them maybe to begin with this. I'd be like, go watch the movies, but you get the idea.
Right. No,
Introduce them to the rest of Star Wars beyond the movies, this is a must for me personally.
100%. I think if I know anime people and my friends are anime friends, in high school I had a lot of friends that loved anime, so this would have been great because I mean some of them like Star Wars, but I would have liked to see their reaction to some of this stuff. And this is one that I would definitely show like little cousins of mine or something and be like, oh look, because they love animation and animated stuff like this because it's just fun. It's what everyone's grown up with. We all would watch animated shows when we're growing up and cartoons and whatnot. Not that this is cartoons, but I don't know, I just love it. And all of these, whether even the anime one that I was just like, I thought it was good, but that's it. They all felt very inspired. And I just, whether it was just like, surface level concepts from Star Wars, fine, great. But they ran miles with it and they made a statement, and I'm just wondering when Pixar is going to get their stab at Visions, at a Star Wars story. Maybe Visions Volume 3 will see a Pixar taking their stab at a Star Wars story. Because I would love to see what they come up with. But all of these shorts that we've gotten so far, even volume 1, I'm like, great. I'm glad they exist. I'm glad that they serve as a conduit to as a connection piece for other people of other realms to come and party with us in the Star Wars Club. So because I think all of these are great, and it doesn't matter that they're not canon; they're still good. Like it doesn't matter about what the canon status is. Like who gives a f? You know, it's great. Well, I don't know. Great stories are great stories, whether they fall under that canon title or not. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. This is good storytelling, and I definitely think as Star Wars fans, I feel if everything feels tied down and we're in a bubble and it feels like we're going roundy round, loop de loop, and we're just stuck in a cycle with Mandoverse. Like this feels like a breath of fresh air, and it feels very cleansing to the soul. And yeah, it just makes me want to be like, man, I want to see continuations of these stories, and it's just great watching all these studios do Star Wars projects, like the Indian studio that was able to do the Golak story, and also the studio that made the Wallace and Gromit story. I'm like, great to have you guys. Like that is so cool that you guys got to do a Star Wars story. So very curious. I really hope for Visions Volume 3 they keep it like this, where it's like, yeah, we got some anime in here, but we got other realms of and styles of animation, because I think this is the way to go. Rather than keeping it all anime, I think it should be all like this, different styles.
For sure.
And top 3 is
yeah.
Top 3, number 3, Bandits of Golak. Number 2 could change. 2 and 1 are interchangeable, but number 2, Spy Dancer, and number 1, In the Stars.
What about you, Michelle? We're going to Michelle first.
You're muted, Michelle, by the way.
Michelle.
Oh my god! Thank you.
You gotta find your voice. You gotta tell.
I gotta find my voice. Number 1, In the Stars. Number 2, Ow Song, and number 3, interchanges between Spy Dancer and Screecher's Reach, but currently it was Screecher's Reach. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. My top 3 would be 3 is interchangeable between I Am Your Mother and the Bandits of Golak. 2 would be Spy Dancer, and 1 is In the Stars, which is interesting. It's all about favorites, so that's great.
Yeah.
It probably says a lot about how good it is. Just to wrap up my thoughts, I'd say echo what both of you said, but also just to add, I'm just, at the end of the day, so happy that this exists. I think it's an important project, and I want to see more of it, because I think whether, I said throughout this podcast, some of them just didn't land for me. Some of them I love, though. But I like that, because the ones that didn't land for me, land for someone else. And the way season 1 didn't land for me, I know a lot of people that love that season, like Michelle right here. So I just think Visions is an important project, and I want to see it. I want to see it go on for at least, 1 more season. So yeah, good stuff, Lucasfilm. That was great. So that just about wraps us up for today. Thank you to everyone for sitting through with us, breaking down all 9 of these shorts, talking about our thoughts. We've had a lot of fun today. Before we go, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the hell out of it. You've been doing such good work on Instagram covering Visions. Tell the people where they can find you and what's coming up for you.
Yeah. Well, you can find me on Instagram at Ahsoka X Tano, and I recently launched the 2023 edition of my podcast, Fulcrum's Broadcast. So you can find that on Instagram as well, and working on getting the show available wherever you get your podcasts. So, yeah.
Heck yes. Hell yeah.
Yep. Check it out. Mike, where can the people find you?
Follow me, all_Star Wars and the pod page, the SW Exchange. By the way, we did announce on there, because we originally, if you guys checked out the calendar, we said you guys were going to get the Visions review on May 9th or something, but we had a program schedule, and we let the Instagram audience know. Make sure you're following there, because we had a little schedule change in recording times and all that. So make sure you're following the SW Exchange for all the latest and greatest of everything here. Ari, how about you?
Yep. You can follow me at Star Wars_Exchange on Instagram. But for the podcast, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating on all the platforms if you enjoy the show, because we really appreciate that, and it goes a long way. So yeah, Thanks to everyone for watching once again. May the Force be with you all. See you next time.
Adios.